You have already put God first, ... But have you really? Before answering, take a look at your life. Look at your finances, your inner peace, your relationships, your productivity. Are they in order? Or are they in conflict, disorganized, unstable? Because here is a truth that many ignore. Everything that is out of alignment in your life is a direct reflection of a neglected spiritual order. And I'm not talking about religiosity, I'm talking about the invisible structure that governs the most solid empires and the most prosperous men in history. The top of your pyramid of priorities reveals where your true foundation lies. And if that foundation is anything other than God, sooner or later the castle will crumble. I've seen it up close. I've seen brilliant men with unquestionable talents, who achieved unimaginable wealth and lost it all because they didn't understand the hierarchy that sustains true success. And I have also seen simple, disciplined men, anchored in a higher purpose, build legacies that time has not been able to erase, because what is built on the eternal remains. But what is built only on the ego crumbles at the first shock. If you want to align your life, first align yourself with what is eternal, with the Creator, with the source of order and abundance. It all starts there. Because the man who starts the day dominated by fear, anxiety, or the urgency of money is building his tower on sand. But the man who rises with reverence, with direction, with a spirit of gratitude and mission, has rock under his feet. It doesn't matter how much you've messed up. It doesn't matter how much you've lost so far. What matters is where you decide to anchor your life from today onwards. And that decision starts now, at this very moment, in the next few minutes. I'm going to guide you through a process of rebuilding, but not from the outside in, from the inside out. We will reorganize your time, your mind, your leadership, and your vision for the future, all anchored in one non-negotiable principle: God first. And if you follow me to the end, not only will you understand how to apply this to your daily life, but you will see your life begin to align in all areas, like gears that fall back into place after years of being stuck. This video is not just about faith, it's about structure. It's about prosperity with purpose. And if all of this makes sense to you, then stop right now, look around you, and realize this is the first day of your new life. And if you want to receive more content like this, content that aligns your mind, spirit, and wealth building, subscribe to the channel right now. You're going to need this weekly mentoring to stay on track. Now, let's get started. First truth: life only starts to fall into place when you learn to obey the correct order of things. I discovered this when I was young, working as a telegraph operator in Pittsburgh. It wasn't the best pay, nor was it the most glamorous job. But there was something about that environment that taught me more than any book: precision. There, I learned that a system only works if each part operates in its own time, in its own order, with its own purpose. The same is true of life. When you try to put money above character, you lose both. When you try to put pleasure above mission, you end up empty. But when God is at the top, everything falls into its natural place. But what does it mean to put God first in practice? It means that before you make a decision, you consult your principles. That before you act, you pray. That before you complain, you give thanks. And that your priority is not to please people, or even yourself, but to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. This changes everything. When I started building the steel empire, I had million-dollar offers to take faster paths, dubious shortcuts, fragile alliances. I refused them all. Why? Because they would have taken me away from the mission. Because they were noise, not direction. And those who have God as their priority recognize noise, even when it comes disguised as opportunity. The man who wants to see his life align must first align his thoughts with his faith. He must stop repeating, "It's impossible, it's difficult, I'm not capable," because those words did not come from God. They came from fear. And fear is the greatest thief of destiny that has ever existed. Do you want to live aligned? Start by aligning your language. Stop cursing your path with words of defeat. Start prophesying victory with your feet on the ground and your eyes on high. Because words are seeds, and every harvest begins in the mouth. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to position you, to awaken you, to remind you that you were not created to survive, but to rule. Rule your time, your emotions, your business, your life. But this rule begins with submission. Submission to that which is above you, because only those who know how to submit well can rule well. And God is that reference point. Not in a religious way, but in a functional way. He is the foundation, the criterion, the source. It's not about being good, but about being honest. About acting with integrity, even when no one is looking. Because when you act with integrity, you attract favor. You attract the right doors, the right people, the right contracts. Everything falls into place because you fell into place first. If your life is stuck, look at where you've reversed the order. Maybe you've put work above family, or you put other people's opinions above your conscience. Or maybe you put money above your mission. In any case, there is a reversal, and the only way to unblock it is to restore the original order. God, mission, family, work, results. That is the hierarchy of stability. Change that order, and you will reap instability. But keep it, and you will see your life flourish with consistency. Maybe not overnight, but with a solidity that lasts for generations. I'm not here to promise easy miracles. I'm here to teach you the fundamentals. And the first is this: put God first. That means starting the day with direction, ending the day with evaluation, and living the day with intention. Don't be a slave to urgency. Be a soldier on a mission. Because the world is full of people running in circles, speeding toward nowhere, and few are those who stop, listen, and align. You've decided to stop. You've decided to listen. Now you need to align. And I'm here to make sure that if you stick with me, that transformation will be inevitable. If you understand the power of putting God first, then it's time to apply that principle in the practical building of your life. Because faith without action is just wishful thinking. And wishful thinking without direction is just delayed frustration. I want you to understand, this faith is a building tool. And like any powerful tool, it requires discipline, consistency, and purpose. You don't wield faith only in moments of despair. You walk with it every day, in the way you make decisions, the way you treat people, the way you organize your routine, your finances, your projects. Life begins to fall into place when you treat the invisible with the same seriousness you treat the visible. When you manage your time as a servant of something greater, not as a slave to anxiety. And here's the key: productivity with purpose. At the height of my business career, I managed thousands of men, dozens of plants, international contracts, and decisions that moved millions of dollars a week. But my day began with silence, with listening, with purpose. I reserved the first few minutes of the morning to seek direction. Not in a hurry, but with reverence, because those who start the day connecting with the eternal govern the day with wisdom. But those who wake up rushing have already lost before they start. And here's a common mistake among dream builders. They confuse urgency with importance. They rush around all day, but don't produce what really matters. And what really matters, that which is aligned with the purpose for which you were created, that which leaves a legacy, that which does not dissolve over time. You need to start saying no to a lot of things. Say no to distractions. Say no to empty invitations. Say no to comparisons. Say no to unproductive conversations. Because the mind that serves God cannot serve confusion. And here's the brutal truth: if your mind is disorganized, your life will be too. And the only way to organize your mind is to submit it to a bigger vision, to an eternal plan, to a clear mission. And a clear mission starts with honest questions. Why are you here? What pain were you born to solve? What kind of transformation does your presence bring to your environment? These questions aren't theoretical. They're structural. Because when you understand your purpose, you stop seeking approval. You stop comparing yourself. You stop sabotaging yourself. And when you stop sabotaging yourself, you start to truly build. And then life begins to align. Because it got easier. But because it got clearer. If you want different results, you need to become a different person. And that starts from within. What do you feed yourself every day? Because, pay attention, your routine is your temple. What goes into your mind defines what comes out through your actions. And there can be no external alignment if there is continuous, internal chaos. Organize your morning. Start with prayer, with reading, with reflection. Write down your goals. Proclaim your values. Plan your future. And then act with precision. Those who live this way no longer live reacting, they live building. And those who build with faith and consistency move mountains. Now, I want to tell you one of the greatest truths I have learned. Empires are not built with strength, but with structure. Strength gets you to a point, but structure sustains you. And structure begins with a mindset aligned with eternity. That is what gives consistency to your actions, wisdom to your decisions, and firmness to your steps. Emotionally weak men live in oscillation. One day motivated, the next day lost. One day excited, the next day frustrated. Because they have not yet understood that emotional stability comes from spiritual stability. And spiritual stability is not the absence of struggle, but the constant presence of direction. I didn't become one of the richest men in the world because I was lucky. I built brick by brick, decision by decision, habit by habit. And at each stage, I asked myself, does this bring me closer to or further away from my mission? That question needs to be the compass for your journey. And here's a practical criterion. If something takes you away from God's presence, from your integrity, from your peace, then it's not worth it even if it promises quick returns. Because profit without purpose is a burden. Growth without structure is ruin. You may be listening to me right now with debts, frustrations, accumulated mistakes, but I want you to know, all of that can change if you change the order. Put God at the top. Your mission right below, your responsibilities next. And, finally, your desires. This hierarchy transforms any life. And when I speak of God, I speak of purpose, of non-negotiable values, of immutable principles. The entire universe is organized around laws. And you, as part of that creation, will only find order when you respect those laws. The first is simple. Serve the Creator before seeking to dominate creation. And if you still have doubts about this, look at the empires that have fallen. They all collapsed because they changed the order. They put ego above mission, pleasure above responsibility, gain above integrity. Don't make the same mistake. You were made to build something eternal, something that your children, grandchildren, and even strangers will recognize and be impacted by. But to do that, you need to decide today. I will be the man or woman who lives with order, who thinks with purpose, who acts with focus, who honors God with their decisions. Now stop for a moment and look at your life. Is there anything out of order? In what area have you put something above God? Where is the inversion? Because that is where realignment begins. And here is where you enter into conscious construction. I want you to write in the comments with courage, what area of your life will you align with God first starting today? Declare your decision here in the comments. This public commitment is not just symbolic, it is spiritual. It is a turning point. Write as one who believes, as one who has decided. Now that you have made the decision to align your life with God at the center, it is time to transform that alignment into a leadership structure. Because it is not enough to believe, must govern. And there is no true government without a solid spiritual foundation. The true leader is not the one who commands, but the one who inspires. It is not the one who shouts, but the one who guides. And to guide with authority, you must have your life in order. You cannot lead your home, your business, or your team if you do not lead yourself. And leadership begins with self-mastery. I have never met a great builder, a true magnate, a giant of history who had not learned to command his emotions, his habits, and his impulses. To govern is to resist. It is to say no when the majority gives in. It is to stay the course when the winds change. And no one can do that without a higher source of stability. And that source is God. I discovered this when, at a very young age, I was put in charge of decisions that many adults would hesitate to make. The pressure was immense. Workers depended on me, partnerships were at stake, investments were at risk. And there, in the silence of my decisions, I sought direction not in popular advice, but in eternal principles. I learned that a business may look promising, but if it violates values, it is a trap. That a person may be brilliant, but if they lack character, they will be poison to the team. That an investment may promise profit, but if it dishonors the truth, it will ultimately bring loss. True leadership is spiritual. It emanates from an aligned spirit, and an aligned spirit is not arrogant. It is steadfast. It is not fragile. It is resilient. Do you want to become someone trustworthy? Be predictable in your principles. Let people look at you and know there is someone who does not compromise what is right, who keeps their promises, who honors their word, who moves with purpose. In today's world, that's gold, because the market is crowded with talent, but thirsty for character, and character is formed in secret, in the invisible, in silent choices, in moments when no one sees but God sees. And when you are faithful in these small commitments, you become a giant to lead larger commitments. Selected my partners not for their resumes, but for the steadfastness of their souls, for the consistency between their words and actions, for their ability to say no to easy gains. And that is why we have been able to build something that has survived crises, wars, and competition. Because what is built on eternal principles remains. Do you want to build a solid company, a lasting empire, a leadership that leaves a mark and not just profit? Start with principles. Start by putting God above profit. Start by promoting truth above performance. Start by valuing loyalty above brilliance, and you will see that consistency is more powerful than charisma. Leadership that transforms is leadership that serves. I sat with my managers. I walked among the workers. I watched closely. I listened respectfully. Because leadership is not a throne. It is an altar of responsibility. And the greater your influence, the greater your obligation to serve. Do you want to be great? Then serve better. Help more. Train others. Honor your team. Build a culture where principles are more important than results, because that, in the end, will bring the best results. And never forget, the hardest leadership is leading yourself. Waking up when no one tells you to. Studying when no one demands it. Plan when everyone else is relaxing. Protect your mind from vanity. Shield your heart from comparison. And keep your vision steady even when others laugh. Don't expect recognition. Expect resistance. Because every true leader will be tested. Tested in solitude. Tested in scarcity. Tested in criticism. And it is these tests that define who leads for ego and who leads for mission. Do you want to know if you are ready to truly lead? Ask yourself, can I be consistent even when no one applauds? Can I hold on to my principles even when everything tells me to give in? Can I protect my peace in the midst of chaos? If so, then you are ready to govern. And those who govern with God in charge govern with peace, with vision, with precision. And here is a truth that the modern world ignores. There is no genuine success that excludes the spiritual. The price of building without God is too high. Because you may grow, but you will grow empty. You may make money, but you will lose your soul. You may gain fame and lose sleep. And what good is it to have everything on the outside if on the inside you live broken, anxious, lost? That's why aligned leadership starts in the heart. Not with pretty speeches, but with difficult decisions, with consistent habits, with intentional routines. And all of this can be trained. You can train your mind to think with purpose, your body to act with discipline, your environment to reflect the values you want to live by. And here's a piece of advice that's worth its weight in gold. Cut out everything that distracts you. A friend who distracts you. Content that discourages you. An environment that contaminates you. Because you are the guardian of your vision, and a leader who loses focus loses the future. It's time to act. It's time to organize your leadership. Not just with goals, but with a mission. Not just with planning, but with values. Not just with speed, but with direction. Your home needs a leader, your children need a role model. Your team needs a pillar. Your purpose needs a general. And that leader, that role model, that pillar, that general, is you. Take charge, take a stand, stand up. Now that you have taken your position as a leader, not just of a business or people, but of yourself, we need to talk about the power of long-term vision. Because this is where empires differ from castles. This is where true builders reveal themselves. While opportunists disappear with the first storm. You need to understand, great things are never born in haste. Everything worthwhile requires time, process, patience, and persistence, and at the center of it all, once again, is order. The order of time, the order of priorities, the order of sacrifice. And all of this is only possible when you know exactly where you are going, even if the path is not yet clear. Long-term vision isn't just about planning. It's about sustained purpose. It's what keeps you steady when everything seems slow. It's what protects you from despair when the return hasn't yet arrived. It's what keeps you from trading what you want most for what only brings immediate relief. When I started laying the foundations of the Carnegie Steel Company, many called me crazy for refusing quick profits, for reinvesting everything I earned, for surrounding myself with demanding men and strategists. But I knew exactly what I was doing. I was planting something that would not only sustain me, but thousands. I was building a structure that would support generations. And those who build to last are not in a hurry. They have clarity. And here's a warning for you. Haste is the enemy of solidity. Anxiety is the enemy of excellence. And impatience is the enemy of vision. You need to train your eyes to see beyond today, beyond the month, beyond the year. Your focus needs to be 5, 10, 20 years ahead, because that's what gives you the courage to act consistently when everything around you screams for shortcuts. The world offers you distractions disguised as opportunities, easy gains disguised as solutions. But those who have vision discern. Those who have purpose filter. Those who have direction refuse. And that vision needs to be written down. It needs to be visible. It needs to be reviewed every day. Because what is not remembered is lost. And you need to remember every day who you are becoming, what you are building, what legacy you are leaving behind. Have you written down your vision? Have you clearly stated what you want for your life, your family, your business, your faith? Not with generic phrases, but with conviction and detail. Because if you haven't done that yet, you're adrift. And if you don't know where you're going, any path seems good, even the one that leads to the abyss. Write it down. Visualize it. Align your actions. Every decision must pass through this filter. Does this bring me closer to or further away from my vision? And this is where discipline comes in. Because vision without discipline is just fantasy. You can dream big, but if your routine is shallow, your results will be too. And discipline is not rigidity. It is an alliance with your future. It is loyalty to what matters. It is proof that you respect your own goals. You see, what sets the average builder apart from the legendary builder is the ability to keep pace when the world slows down. It is commitment to the process when the results have not yet appeared, and this is where most people give up. Because the process requires sacrifice. It requires focus. It requires faith in motion. Are you willing to pay that price? Are you willing to be faithful to what God has placed in your heart, even when everything seems against it? Because that's when heaven watches you most closely. not on the easy days, but on the days when you choose to keep going even without seeing, when you plant even without feeling, when you honor even without return. Because that's where, my friend, your roots are growing, and what has deep roots stands firm in the storm. The modern world trains people for immediate results, likes, profits, instant responses, but you were not called to live like the world. You were called to live with structure, to grow in a solid way, to reap not only fruits but legacies. And a legacy requires strategy. It requires patience. It requires practical faith. Faith that wakes up early, that organizes finances, that shapes new leaders, that educates by example, that builds even when no one understands. Do you know what sustained me during the most challenging periods of my journey? The certainty that I wasn't just working for myself. I was preparing something bigger than myself. I was building libraries for minds that had not yet been born. I was funding schools that would educate the leaders of an era I would never see. Because true vision transcends time. It is not limited to your existence, it goes beyond it. And you, what are you building? Would your actions today sustain something greater than yourself? Or are you just putting out fires, living on autopilot, chasing applause, surviving the routine? It's time to rewrite that script, to set your sights on the long term, to say no to noise, to haste, to confusion. Because only those who look far can build high, and for that, you need 3 pillars: silence, strategy, and sacrifice. Silence, to hear God amid the noise of the world. Strategy, to know where to put every resource, every minute, every talent. Sacrifice, to say no to what is easy. No to what is comfortable, no to what is too small for your calling. And all of this is sustained by one certainty: you are not alone in this construction. God is with you, not as a spectator, but as the architect, as the master engineer, as the invisible investor who is putting everything in its place, while you remain steadfast, planted, faithful. Now, take a deep breath, look at your routine, and ask yourself, do my actions today bring me closer to the vision God has given me? If the answer is no, adjust now. Because a degree of deviation today creates miles of distance tomorrow. You've made it this far. That alone puts you among the few who have decided not just to live, but to build. And now, in the last step of this journey of alignment, leadership, and vision, the time has come to seal this process with the most powerful foundation there is the spirit of strategic generosity. Yes, because a truly aligned life does not live for itself. It lives to overflow. And here is an absolute principle that has guided my entire life. Money is a servant, not a master. It exists to serve the mission, and if you put it above purpose, it becomes a tyrant. But if you put it below God, it becomes a tool for transformation. True wealth is not measured by what you accumulate, but by the impact you make. That's why I've never measured my success by the size of my bank account, but by the number of libraries opened, schools built, lives lifted by knowledge and dignity. Because that's what remains. That's what resonates for eternity. Don't you want to know if your life is truly aligned with God? Look at how you treat what you have. Look at how you share, how you bless, how you decide to multiply. Many talk about prosperity, but live with a scarcity mindset. They hoard, fear, and withhold. But the truly prosperous understand that generosity is not lost, is planting. That giving is not giving up, it is investing in eternity. And that contributing is one of the highest forms of leadership. During my wealthiest years, I devoted more energy to deciding where and how to give than where to invest. Because I understood that a man's greatest work is not what he builds for himself, but what he leaves for others, and that applies to you. It doesn't matter if you have little or much. What matters is the spirit with which you live. Because those who are generous with little will be greatly used with much, and those who are stingy in scarcity will be selfish in abundance. You were created for more. Not just to win, but to lift others up. Not just to accumulate, but to distribute. wisdom, resources, direction. To develop other leaders. To be a bridge where there was once an abyss. To be an answer where there was only silence. And it all starts today. You need to develop the habit of living with a intention of leaving a legacy. Ask yourself every day, how can I serve with what I have? How can I be a channel, not a barrier? How can I transform my story into a seed for others? And look, I'm not talking about emotional handouts. I'm talking about strategic generosity. I'm talking about creating structures that empower. I'm talking about giving intelligently, about training with purpose, about making a lasting impact. Because help that paralyzes is toxic, but help that activates is divine. Do you want to truly prosper? Then solve real problems. Create value where there was once scarcity. Become a benchmark for excellence. And when your harvest comes, because it will come, share it wisely. Give without guilt, but with discernment. Invest in what perpetuates principles. Support causes that promote autonomy, not dependence. And here's something few people talk about. Generosity is also a strategy for protection. Because what you distribute wisely becomes a shield against greed, against vanity, against the loneliness of the top. I have seen men conquer the world and become prisoners of their conquests. Alone, cynical, cold, because they forgot that prosperity without purpose becomes a burden. And the more they accumulated, the more they lost themselves. Don't make that mistake. Use your wealth intellectual, emotional, to elevate, to educate, to enlighten. You have unique talents, experiences that only you have lived, scars that have become wisdom. Don't keep it to yourself. Teach, share, write, record, train others. This is the mission of legacy builders. And remember, the greatest testimony of your faith is not in your words, but in your deeds, in the concrete impact your presence has on the world. Want to know if you are walking with God? Look at what is flourishing around you. More steadfast people, more upright environments, more efficient businesses, more enlightened paths. If so, then continue, intensify, expand. But if all you see around you is confusion, scarcity, and resentment, then it's time to go back to the beginning. Return to the altar, review your order, realign your route. Life always responds to the direction you choose. Always, and now you know the right direction. God at the center. A clear mission, firm discipline, a long-term vision, strategic generosity. That is the formula that sustained my empire. But more than that, it is the formula that sustained my peace. And peace, my friend, is priceless. The peace of laying your head on your pillow with a clear conscience. The peace of looking back and seeing purpose in every pain. The peace of looking forward and not fearing the future. That peace only comes when you live with order, and order begins by putting God first.